Hey folks, welcome to the channel, and in this video I'll be talking about the 10 most valuable barter items during large-scale disasters, especially ones that affect the economy. Many of these things you probably heard before, but I'll throw in here also my first-hand experience actually going through such a thing, the reason why I wrote this book, Surviving the Economic Collapse. So these are the things I've also seen in Argentina as well, so stick around. Remember that knowledge is always going to be more valuable than any specific tool or item, so yeah, my books are the best way to accumulate that knowledge yourself without having to go through it. You have the links there below in Amazon, all right? Number one, I think this is fairly obvious and we all understand, food and water. Depending on the nature of the disaster that's affecting your area where you happen to be. But food and water are no doubt one of the most important things you can have, especially canned food. And yes, dry pasta, rice, all of these are good, but protein, meats, tuna, these are some of the more valuable things. I've seen it myself in Argentina when things got really bad. I've heard from other people going through similar situations in Venezuela when things became, got very, very bad. Anything that is canned meat, canned protein, that is super valuable for barter. I will also throw in their water, especially on some specific events where the grid is down or there's problems with the infrastructure. But even water is probably going to be even more desperately needed if it's not available, if it's lacking. Usually it's food because it's a more expensive thing. When there's economic problems, it's the thing that affects the most, and people do have access to water. But in some specific disasters, water not being available, you will be basically swimming in something super valuable if you have a pile of bottled water. My advice, and this is a metal bottle that you can buy in IKEA, and these are very nice to have. These are also fairly appreciated as barter items, but my advice besides having those is having a good amount of bottled water available in your local supermarket that people around you are familiar with. Bottled water in clothes that people can trust, that's going to be huge. Number two, alcohol, cigarettes, anything that people are used to using and all of a sudden they don't have access to. Alcohol is famously valuable during war scenarios and situations like that. People that are stressed, that are isolated. Yeah, cigarettes and alcohol. You don't need to go with anything fancy, just cheap vodka or something like that that people can actually mix up or whatnot. Yeah, makes sense. Number three, guns and ammunition. All right, this is pretty simple to understand. Keep in mind, though, that depending on where you are, there are likely going to be regulations in terms of ownership of firearms. It's usually not going to be that you're selling these things like in a fruit market in Bolivia, right? There's going to be a little bit of other things to keep in mind, especially if it's a firearm that is under your name and whatnot. But ammunition, especially so, ammunition, yes. Now, in my experience, even in countries that are very restrictive in terms of the ownership and sale of firearms, in my experience, it is the thing that I got the most value from. Selling guns is one of the things that it does very well for you, especially in hard times. People appreciate those, and especially Glock pistols. My advice, if you want to stock up on a bunch more guns, as spares or maybe as something you can sell or barter, go with a Glock. Glock 9mm, a used Glock, if you buy it cheap enough, you can sell it for the same money or even more, right, as time goes by. That is one of the things I've learned myself going through these things. And remember also magazines. You don't have to buy anything fancy, and Glock original magazines are cheap enough. These are Magpul magazines. They're okay. They're not as good as the original, but I've never had any problem with these, and they're fairly affordable. They're pretty cheap. I will also add here one of the things I've sold in hard times, and I was surprised, toys. You will not believe how pretty much anywhere in the world, if you have nice toys and you're selling them for somewhat of a reasonable price, I was surprised by how quickly those things flew out of my hand. All of the other things that I'm talking about here, nothing comes close to guns and toys for kids. Why? Well, because people want to have their kids happy. I think it makes sense. But that's been my experience. It's been my experience more than once in more than one country. So that's why I'm saying it. And it's the kind of thing you are in this channel for. That kind of knowledge that you don't see from the AI generated bullshit books that are being sold these days. I kid you not. Let's move on. Number 4, talking about first aid, gauze, Antibiotics, those usually need a medical prescription. If you're in Mexico and you can just buy these across the counter, by all means do so. Don't just take them, have them just in case and know when you have to take them. But it's not only going to be antibiotics, it's going to be gauze, it's going to be aspirin, ibuprofen, medications, and first aid stuff, definitely valuable. Also remember condoms, especially in war scenarios and places that are going through very tough times. Yes, it is one of the things that's usually highly sought after, condoms. Let's move on. Gasoline, diesel, fuel, batteries as well, right? I don't have a jerry can here, but you get what I mean. Fuel, super important, especially if it's stabilized. You want to make sure that's the case. Diesel is going to be a little bit easier, but still. And then batteries. Not only have rechargeable batteries, have a bunch of primary batteries, the ones that are disposable. You will be surprised. Well, I guess it's not going to be much of a surprise, but in a number of disasters where people don't have batteries for their radios, for their flashlights, for their gadgets, these are super valuable. I would suggest having also a good amount of simple but yet recognized brand name flashlights, through 9, OLED. These are the ones I know. AA and single AA and AAA single cell flashlights. Those will be super sought after and appreciated by people that need them, and a great barter item. Number 6, tools in general. I will say also, going in terms of tools, knives. And there's a couple knives that I really think you should consider when you want to have spares or stock up for, maybe thinking of bartering one day. It's something that is of a recognizable name brand, quality, and also affordable. Holtafors, I bought a bunch of these for like $3 or $4. They were on sale. The Moras, they're not as cheap as the Holtafors, but also very well recognized and not as that expensive. Glock knives used to be very, I bought some of these for $20, $22, and these are very nice knives, and these are survival knives, and these are also on the tactical-ish self-defense kind of ground as well, so people will go with that. And also being Glock, people love anything that says Glock, and this is a Glock knife, original, made in Austria, and yeah, definitely you can sell those for a lot more than you paid them if you bought them at the right time. One more thing that I will throw in here, a multi-tool, or a bunch of them. You don't have to go with Leatherman. The patent has expired, and there's some quality clones of these being made, very close to the original thing. And for someone that hasn't got a box of tools, which is most people these days, pliers, screwdrivers, this is going to be super valuable during some tough times. I don't doubt that one bit. I've seen these things go for 2 or 3 times the price in the third world compared to what you see it in developed countries. Also, in terms of talking about tools and such, duct tape. Have a lot of duct tape. It is super useful for yourself, useful for barter and trading, and yeah, one of those things that definitely will be appreciated. Number 7, soap and hygiene items, bleach. If you use, for example, we use this soap, the Dove stuff in my house, so have a lot of it for your own use, but also for bartering, for selling, for trading, but go with the things you actually use in your household. I made this mistake once of buying some cheap ass soap. We never used it, and yeah, if it's something you can use yourself, definitely go with that instead. Number 8, precious metals. It's super easy to understand. Gold and silver, especially forms of it that are recognizable. Gold and silver eagles in the United States would be my recommendation. Number 9, ways of starting fire. You would be surprised by how many people don't have a lighter, don't have matches. There's people that have never used a match in their life, if you can believe that. Adults, I'm not talking about a 5-year-old, but fire starting, lighters, matches, super important, and something that's going to be very, and it's shelf stable. You can have these for decades and they will still run fine. In terms of matches, make sure you put them in a waterproof bag so as to make sure air is not getting in there, and humidity, which is kind of sensitive regarding that. So yeah. And number 10, these would be the luxury items, right? Kind of similar to talking about alcohol and food and such, but my advice here is chocolate, candy, coffee. Those 3 things usually super high value in a barter economy. You can use these things yourself probably, so stock up on the things you actually like. Last little tip of mine here for advice. Yes, canned food is nice. I also like these quite a bit. These are specialized emergency rations. These have a 20-year shelf life. Even babies can eat these things. So yeah, the emergency rations make sense not only for your kids, but for something to barter and whatnot. Again, guys, remember, this is based on information that is available. This is also based on things I've actually gone through and experienced firsthand. And I share with you guys all of that in my books as well, in the links there below. Have an awesome day. Take care.